Haskins to be their next franchise quarterback. He's already getting support from a former Washington star, with Joe Theismann giving Haskins the nod to wear the famous number 7, which hasn't been worn since Theismann wore it back in 1985.
So this number was not officially retired. I guess Washington's only ever retired Sammy Ball's jersey, but it was protected. So, like, we're not retiring it, but no one's going to wear it unless, evidently, you think you have the next franchise quarterback. I think it was nice of Joe Theismann. I don't know. I think Washington might have done this for Haskins anyway.
I mean, I can go through a bunch of names of the great Washington players before I get to Joe Theismann. I was shocked at whatever they was doing. They had his jersey in preserve, mothballs, or whatever. Right now with Joe Theismann, what he should be doing is like, oh, of course you can wear it. Start selling them. Get his name back out there. Absolutely.
So he did the right thing.
Did he have a choice?
Well, sometimes you do the right thing, whether what the incentives are, who knows, but he did the right thing. He let the whole world know, no problem, young man, go wear my jersey.
He didn't, it's not his jersey.
Well, it was
It's what?
Last worn by him. It's been 34 years, no one's worn it. So now Dwayne Haskins is going to get
Like, he's not even one of the greatest quarterbacks that ever played in Washington. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, is it a sympathy thing? Like, because he got his leg broke or something?
There's probably an element of that.
Got it.
Time now for
Get him a tissue.
I opened that door.
Let that jersey.
Yes, you did.
Ran through it.
I mean,
That
plowed
was
his way
delightful.
through.
I'm so glad.
Stories to start your morning. Blazers Nuggets, Game 2. Damian Lillard had an off night, finishing with just 14 points, but the Blazers still got the win 97-90 to even up this series with Denver. See, how impressive was the Blazers win with Dame having a slow night?
Oh, absolutely. If you look at the stat line, him and CJ, that they're going to struggle on the road, but I like their whole approach. Dame talked about it after game number 1. He felt as if his teammates were complaining about the referees, got into a back and forth in game number 1, and they did not play well in this game, but they were able to hold on. Denver made a couple runs at them late to try to get back into the game, but to steal a game on the road when you don't play well, you don't find that in the playoff. Huge win, mature win by this Trailblazer team.
Speaking of mothballs, the Knicks mothballed Enes Kanter at the beginning of this year. He then got a lifeline from Portland.
Yes.
I've been hard on Kanter as far as how bad of a defensive player he'd been historically.
Yeah, take your time.
He's been really good in this series against a really skilled big in Nikola Jokic. Kanter being a legitimate replacement for Nurkic is not something I think anyone saw coming.
No.
But he's been so key to what they're doing. Last night, Denver could not hit a shot, and Jokic couldn't bail him out. And so this was a great win for Portland where they didn't play great.
Guaranteed most publications didn't cover this. When the Knicks decided to let him go, Portland decides to get him one of the biggest pickups this offseason. You're looking at a mid-season, yes.
Yep.
You're talking about a Portland Trailblazers team that could be in the finals, and they wouldn't be there without him.
Right.
Moving on to the Bucks-Celtics
I like that. You're
series.
apologizing. Let's
I'm
start
not apologizing.
here.
I'm just
Celtics, come on, get it ready.
Boston has challenged Giannis in the form of physical play, and the Greek Freak has noticed. Giannis says the Celtics definitely played to the limits of flagrant fouling. Nick, good strategy to be physical with Giannis?
Only strategy. Got to do it. And there is a LeBron-esque effect of this, which is, I don't think they're fouling him harder to be mean, to be intimidating. It's because you got no other choice. He's so big, and he has developed such strength that if you do not wrap both arms around him, he will get an and one. The foul is to prevent the bucket, so you have to make sure you prevent the bucket. So I think Boston has had a really smart defensive game plan against Giannis. I don't think it's dirty. I don't think it's out of bounds. It's playoff basketball against a dominant player.
No, it's not dirty, but they're going to put some meat on him.
Yeah.
They are going to challenge him at the rim, and they are going to push it as far as they can. If you're going to slow down someone like Giannis, who is going to make his living in the lane, if Giannis doesn't want that physical contact, you need to keep developing your outside shot. And that's the reason. If you're going to slow Giannis down, you have to be physical with him. That's why the Celtics are in this series tied up 1-1.
And look at these highlights. Look at what happens when they aren't hitting him. He's finishing at the rim. You got to knock him down, man.
All right, moving on to the Warriors now. Draymond Green's contract status has flown under the radar, but Golden State's owner, Joe Lacob, has strong feelings on the three-time champ, saying, I want Draymond Green to be here forever. Nick, how crucial is it for the Warriors to lock him up long-term?
Draymond came up with the term 82-game players and 16-game players. Draymond is proving once again like he did.
Yeah, I don't think he came up with that one. I heard that one before. I think.
Okay, well, he popularized it at least in recent memory.
At some point, he said it.
He proved it with a 30-point...
With his mouth open.
With a 30-point triple-double in Game 7 of the Finals a few years ago. Has proven it consistently during this run. He's their glue guy. He's point forward. He is their best rim protector, and he will be critical to their ability to play high-level defense once Kevin Durant leaves. Now, he has more value to them than he has maybe any other team in the league, so it could be prickly contract negotiations. But, yeah, they got to keep Draymond.
Yeah, four-time champion Draymond. But he said this about all the stars there. He said that about KD, like to keep him there, but all the people. He's like, Steph's going to stay here. Clay's going to stay here. Iggy is going to stay here. And Draymond's going to stay here. Those four guys are the cornerstone of their franchise. I expect him to be a Golden State Warrior.
You just already given him this year's championship? We got a month left. Let's just see what happens. Not a four-time champion yet. I mean, probably is about to.
Okay.
Not yet.
Let's end with Ben Roethlisberger. Talk some football.
If you could make some of the predictions you can, I'm sure that would.
Oh, yeah. No. I'm with that. I'm all for CC predictions. New segment. CC makes a prediction.
The 37-year-old quarterback, Roethlisberger, has long been linked to retirement, mainly because he keeps hinting at retirement. But now that he signed a 2-year extension, keeping him in Pittsburgh through 2021, Steelers general manager Kevin Colbert says there's no end in sight. He says, I'm sure that he doesn't have an expiration date. I know that he's still very competitive. He still wants to do this at a high level. What he wants is more Super Bowls, and he wants to continue to try to win, and we're going to support that. See, what is the Steelers Super Bowl window with Ben Roethlisberger there in Pittsburgh?
I still think they have it. A Super Bowl window. I believe their defense will be drastically improved. I believe their style of play, they will adapt to their personnel, where they will not be a team that can drop back and throw the ball 40 times a game. That used to be one of their strengths with Antonio. So I expect for them to try to manage the game, try to be physical, special teams in defense, get the game, make the game close, and late in the game, you have one of those type of quarterbacks that can make the difference in the game. So as long as Mike Tomlin is there, as Coach Mangini says, and as long as Ben Roethlisberger, and I think that Ben, he went through that thing in your career where you're wondering, man, how long am I going to play? But when you look at all the other quarterbacks and what they're doing, forget we even had Tom Brady. Right. Tom Brady's in a space all by himself, all right? Because the way he's eating, the way he's doing, and how long he wants to play, you got Drew Brees, you got Phillip Rivers, you got Eli Manning, you got all these guys that have been like, man, I'm just as good as athlete as them. And Ben has continued to play at a high level. Some of these quarterbacks, the one here in town, is not even playing at a high level, and they think he can play 3 more years. So why couldn't Phillip Rivers? Why wouldn't Ben Roethlisberger? What else are they going to do as far as a second career? So Ben Roethlisberger, not surprised at all if he was to play 3 more years.
What about the team he's surrounded with? How big of a drop-off is there this year, having lost their 2 guys, their Big Bell and Antonio Brown?
Well, you got to keep in mind, since they didn't have Le'Veon Bell all of last season, that was kind of already baked in. Now, no Antonio Brown, that offense going to take a haircut now. The offense will, in my mind, not be as potent, but it should be noted, what has hurt the Steelers, the reason the Steelers have not reached what we judge as their potential over the last few years, has not been because the offense hasn't been good enough. It's been because the defense, which they year after year invest their first-round pick in, the defense has not played to the level that it should. They've got 5 first-round picks on defense. They traded a pick for Joe Hayden, who was a former first-round pick himself. They have Stephon Tuitt was a high second-round pick. This year, once again, what do? Oh, Devin Bush, first-round pick. They keep trying to build that defense up the right way through the draft. That defense has to play better. When they lost the playoff game, that really, I think, the most disappointing loss of this era, the divisional round game against the Jacksonville Jaguars after a bye at home, the game that would have set up the rematch with New England, they scored 40-some points and lost to the Blake Bortles-led Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the defense scored for Jacksonville, so that added to their total. But what they have been searching for the last year and a half is a replacement for Ryan Shazier and a way to play high-level defense without him. Maybe Devin Bush, plus T.J. Watt being a year older, plus Cam Hayward's continued leadership. Terrell Edmonds, a guy they spent the first-round pick on last year.
On paper, it sounds like a great defense.
They added Mark Barron this offseason. They don't have to be a great defense, but they've got to be a well above average defense. To me, that's the real question for the Steelers, more so than can an offense with Ben Roethlisberger be productive.
They might have the third or fourth best defense in the division. All right? I believe Cleveland's defense will be better, and there's no question Baltimore's defense is better, being one of the elite ones. But at the end of the day, offensively, what are they going to do? Who are going to be the wide receivers that emerge? Do they get their tight ends involved? Because they do have some skilled tight ends. So I believe how they do business will be a little bit different, but they adapted last year because James Conner is a quality running back. And the reason why he takes a hit is because he's replacing one of the best running backs all-purpose that we've ever seen. I think that people miss out on how good Le'Veon Bell was. James Conner is a good football player, and football is a team sport. So I just believe they're going to have a number of people. They signed Dante Moncrief. I don't expect him to do that. I have huge question marks as far as their wide receivers and who's going to produce some of those numbers. Juju, what number receiver is he? Is he a number 2? Because I don't believe at this point in his career he's a number 1.
And James Washington, a guy last year they drafted in the 2nd round. I think they were pretty unhappy with his development, even just in his rookie season. The Steelers have a great history of spending non-first-round picks on wide receivers and turning them into guys that would have been worth a first-round pick. James Washington was drafted high at that position by Steelers standards. With Antonio out the door, with Juju assuming the number 1 receiver role, whether he's ready for it or not, James Washington, big time for him to potentially step up to that number 2 wide receiver.
Yeah, the general manager and their coaching staff's done a great job as far as developing these low-value wide receivers. But they've done an awful job developing high picks on the defensive side.
Yep.
And that's the reason why Pittsburgh, if they can get their defense up to being a top 10 defense, then yes, that championship window will continue to be open.
All right, let's get back to the NBA now. Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, both trying to win their current team a title. But the conversation is now